Hi, Christy Wimber here. We're going to talk out of 2 Corinthians chapter 1. We're going to continue in verse 12 here through verse 22. And again, here's Paul. Yesterday we talked about how God empowers us through comforting and comforts us in our hardship and our suffering and when we're under pressure. And that empowers us to bring comfort to people around us, and that God's always doing something at work. But then Paul shifts here and he goes into this whole reminder that there's nothing, even in our own power. Sometimes we can go through things and we think, oh, I'm pretty great, like I made it through that, or I did really well, or I accomplished more than I thought. And what Paul does is he goes right out of this text of suffering and comfort and all that, and then reminds us that really we're only to boast in God alone, and that the truth is, in this life, we do not make it without God. We will go through all kinds of hardship. We will go through all kinds of things that we would never pick, but without God, we just don't make it. There's this thing that God will give us free will, and there's this thing that God will empower us for service, and that God will invite us in. He's always giving us an invitation to His kingdom and to the work of His kingdom. But at the end of the day, we just can't do things in our own power, and that God's Spirit is a gift to us to empower us, but it's power for a purpose, and it's the power to walk us through life, to empower us through life, but also in relationship for Christ alone. And just remembering that, and remembering that God Himself, as the promise of the Holy Spirit, has literally put a seal, His seal of His Holy Spirit on you, and that you're marked by Him. And I believe, and I do think the older I get, I'm more and more believing that God has marked us. He hasn't just marked life and this temporary sort of shell that we walk in, but that He's marked us for eternity, that He's put eternity in the hearts of men and women to seek Him, and when we seek Him, that we would find Him, and that He's marked us for a purpose. And so I want to really encourage us today that, one, that we stay humble in who we are and what God's given to us. Two, that we remember that all that we have is because of Jesus and because of His power in us and through us. But that also that God's marked us. And you can run and you can hide and you can go off on your own, but there is this promise that God has marked us for Himself. And that and even Psalm 139 talks about that. Where can we go from His presence? That when we wake up, He is there. When we lie down, He is there. That He is ever so present. And some of you need to just remember that today, that God is for you and that He's marked you. But that it's not in our own power, and it's not because of how great we are. It's always because of His goodness towards us.